Okay. Well, if everybody's ready,
Good morning, everybody.
welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. What a sunny day we got going out there.
Beautiful.
Kind of warm, but still cool for the summers we have here. It's really nice. But anyway, welcome out on the Memorial Day weekend. We're glad you're here with us. And we'd like to start the service with a song called This Is the Day. And if you'd like to join in, we welcome it. And please rise and join in the Spirit.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Woo!
Okay. All right, John. All right. Oh, thank you. I've been waiting for it, and now he doesn't do it. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister here, and I'm really glad that you guys are with us on Memorial Day weekend. So, thank you for joining us. So, it's a beautiful weekend, and I hope you're enjoying the time off. And if you're working, you have Monday off, so you can have a really good long 3-day weekend. So probably the first announcement, probably the most exciting announcement, that Sue Witter will not be here next week because she's going to be going to graduation. So we are loving her and supporting her as she's going through the graduation. And I can't remember, Sue, are they going to broadcast it live? Yeah, maybe if we could get that information, maybe we can put it in the newsletter just so that way it's available. That would be really great. So, so if you would like to watch it, watch her go through her graduation ceremony, that'd be wonderful. So we can continue to support you. I also want to remind you that we are doing our visioning class. So Reverend Susan is doing her visioning class on Thursday at 11 to 1. And so if you, it's still open if you'd like to join. So visioning classes allows us to catch that divine spirit, that guidance to live our lives. And our theme this year is transforming our lives. And what better way to have a tool in your toolkit on how to capture that divine spirit's guidance. Also want to let you know that I don't know if we announced this or not, but every Saturday night at 6:30, there's an Om meditation that is done here in the sanctuary, and it's open to everybody, and it's an incredible experience. Thaddeus and Katie, one Saturday Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember what it was, but I was in the office working, and they were in here oming, and it almost scared me. Because they are professionals. They are really loud, and you can feel it deep in your bones. So if you want to experience something different, please come to join us on that Om meditation on Saturday. It's every Saturday night at 6:30. And then also just save the date, June 22nd, we're going to have another Wellness Expo here at the center, and that's going to be all day long. So all this information is available in the newsletter. So you can receive the newsletter, or you can go to our website, wvcsl.com, and receive and find out everything that we're doing here at the center. All right, so that's all the announcements for today. So let's say our vision statement together. So just repeat after me. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the Science of Mind principles. And so it is. So just sit back, enjoy the wonderful air conditioning and the Bradford's beautiful music. Thank you.
So take a deep breath as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, no.
I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
I will make a quiet place.
Be still and know that God is in this place. God is in every living thing, every being, every situation on this planet, in the universe, expressing as that all good, expressing as passion and purpose and love and enthusiasm. And everything good in life is God. It is all God. We are surrounded by the infinite presence the divine spirit that exists in, through, and as us right here, right now. And knowing those qualities of God are within us, I know that we are all one with God, as we are the divine expressions of God and all that good. And I claim and affirm this to be true, knowing that everything and every being and every situation in life is that divine expression. And I speak a word of blessing for all of us here in service and all of those in this room and all of those who cannot be with us today, that we are all collectively that one with God. And a word of blessing for the Bradfords, knowing that their beautiful music, that harmony that they gift us every week touches our hearts and souls. And for Reverend Karen, knowing that every word that she speaks touches our hearts, knowing that she is speaking those words of God that flow through her effortlessly, and providing us with a message that we can take home and use every day. And for all of those in service and for all faith traditions, knowing that there are many paths to that one God. And I'm so grateful for this day. I'm so grateful for the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living and all of us here. And I release my words into the law, knowing that it is good. It is all good, and it is done, and so it is. My reading today is from If You Know Who You Are, You Will Know What to Do. And this is from a section called An Intuitive Call. Transition is often inspired by a sense of call, an intuitive spiritual emotional awareness that it is time for that page to be turned. It is time for this chapter to end and a new one to begin. It is a call into that next phase of our lives. Integrity involves both knowing who God created me to be and what God is calling me to be about. Right now, at this moment in life, integrity asks the question, who am I? Integrity in times of transition asks, who am I now? Who am I in this new place, in this new time in my life? Knowing who I am is an issue of self-identity. Knowing who I am at any point in my life is an issue of ongoing discernment. The principles and values that define us are basically in place. They will be tweaked and refined, but they rarely change substantially. How we apply those values and which of them are given priority at any particular point in our lives is open to our ongoing intuitive discrimination. So let's take that into contemplation for a moment. And so it is. And the author is Ronald J. Greer. I forgot to mention.
So, good morning again, everybody. Happy Memorial Day weekend. I'd just like to announce this song a little bit because, you know, we have some service members in our congregation, but everybody has someone in their life, their family, their friend that served in the military. And so Memorial Day to me is about the ones that didn't make it home. So in honor of them, I'd like to sing this song. It's called Some Gave All by Billy Ray Cyrus. I knew a man named Chadley Kane. Few folks even knew his name, but a hero, yes, was he. He left a boy, came back a man. Still many just don't understand about the reasons we are free. I can't forget the look in his eyes, all the tears he cried as he said these words to me. Some gave all, some gave on. Some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. If you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. Now Sam McCain is no longer here, but his words are oh so clear as they echo throughout our land. For all his friends who gave their all, who stood the ground and took the fall to help their fellow man. Love your country, live with pride, and don't forget those who died. America, can't you see? All gave some gave all. Some stood through for the red, white, and blue, and some had to fall. If you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Some gave all. Some gave all.
Beautifully done. Thank you so much. What a great way to show our appreciation for all those who served and all of you here in the room who have that experience or have family. My dad was in the Navy, and one of my daughters was in the Army. So thank you. It's a wonderful day to give tribute to those, and especially when we look at those who gave their all. The title of my message this morning is In the Midst of Life, and it fits perfectly with this idea on Memorial Day, where we are really taking an opportunity to recognize how precious life is. And I read this quotation from Dr. Holmes and realized I wanted to create a Sunday message around this topic of being in the midst of life. Here are the words of Dr. Holmes. He said, "You are always in the midst of life, a life that lives eternally, and it lives through you now." So right now, we are having that experience of the eternal moment. We are living in this midst of life and recognizing that life lives eternally through us. And it's a gorgeous topic. And when we talk about eternality or immortality, we kind of bump in sometimes. We bump into other faiths that have slightly different view that immortality happens once you're no longer living, then you become immortal. And we don't teach it that way. I love that Dr. Holmes had a slightly different take, and all of New Thought actually has this idea, this understanding that you don't become eternal once you die, that we are eternal now. And in fact, and also that part about you're immortal after you die, but only if you did all the right things, you know. if you check off all the boxes in a certain way, then you get that eternality. But I love that quotation. There's a theme that I say often. The only aspect of time that is eternal is now. The only aspect of time that is eternal is now. And I always think I had a friend in my Course in Miracles circle when I facilitated all those years who every time you would say that, he would go, no, and now. No, now. The only moment that's eternal is now and now. And it's humorous, but it gives me that sense of perpetual onwardness, that this eternal now is ongoing for perpetuity. And truly, when we talk about the eternal moment being now, we're looking at this idea of how easy it is to live in the past. Some of the things we carry around, that it would really lighten our load a little bit if we could just let go. But if we're not carrying something from the past, then sometimes we're looking into the future and worrying about what might happen next. And the thing about living in the present moment is it's the most precious time there could be. Everything happens in the present moment, and everything else we're just projecting or remembering, but the realness happens in that holiness of life, in the very moment, in the midst of life right now, Holmes said. The poet William Blake said it beautifully. He said, "Everything that lives is holy, and life delights in life." These are the kinds of sayings that come only from the poets, and it seems like only the artists or the musicians and the lyrists of the world capture these ideas and are able to put them down. And sometimes the rest of us are like, no, we don't want to think about the hard times, the dark times, the challenging times. But the poets and the artists, they have an ability to see the holiness of life because they have a perspective that includes the allness of life. And what that means is, and I think the artist is the best illustration of that the artist takes the use of light itself, and through light and contrast and shadows, we get the whole picture so that whatever the artist is focusing on comes into greater clarity. It's lovely to sit in front of a great work of art, or to even have an art book at home where you can look at some of the great artists that from the past, and you can just gaze at a picture of a great painting that has spoken to individuals for hundreds of years or more. So what we know is that these people who have sort of maybe the moodiness, we might say, of life. We could say that it's moody because they are able to articulate or demonstrate the emotions in all kinds of different ways. So life delights in life, and to say these words and to add on Dr. Holmes's idea that we're in the midst of that right now, and especially saying these words on Memorial Day, where we're invited to remember those who have lived in our lives and those we have loved and known, and now they have passed, and they only are in memories and in our photographs. But when we hear these great thinkers speak such words, we see that they're able to recognize the sacred relationship of the interconnectedness, the way we are divinely woven together in this gorgeous tapestry that becomes this divine life that we are living. And the only moment that is holy, the most holy of all moments, is always the now moment. And it's living through us right now. If life delights in life, then my question to you is, are you giving life a good time? Are you doing your best to live a life that has some delight in it? Can we find a way to balance the shadow with the light and not run from it, not be afraid of the darkness and the ways in which we have in the past? These are all really good questions, and because I have been pondering this topic all week long, I have been thinking such bizarre things as here's one of the thoughts I had this week. It feels to me like we have been appointed by the Creator that created us in its image and likeness. We have been appointed by God to be the heart of life. If life delights in life, right? We are the heart, we are the hands, and behind that life is the life force, is spirit itself, the life force that beats the heart, that breathes us, that creates that steady divine rhythm, the way that we can notice that life is expanding and then something will happen and it will contract, but that's the breath. It's just the way the lungs move, expansion and contraction that supports the continuity of our life. And so in this way, we can say that as the heart and the hands of spirit itself, that life force is the very thing that circulates all of our physical things in our being and keeps us alive. It's the same thing that intelligence that oxygenates us and stimulates our minds to be able to reflect on these bigger spiritual qualities and truths of this great life we're living in. And indeed, if God is the life force that breathes us and supports us and fuels us in every way, then there must be a divine way that we are also supplied and sourced in that perpetual, ongoing movement, the way that this universe supports all of life. And that then becomes our call back to center. When things feel out of balance in our lives, we can return to that way that we look at how nature supports everything else in nature. We can look at that way that there are resources supplied for all living things, and that there's this great web of interconnectedness that is this beautiful web of life. But we need more than just looking and remembering that those resources are available to us. We need to use them. We need to actively work our hearts and our hands and be a part of this livingness of life. And so I was thinking that in order to be using our minds and our hearts consciously, to be in accord with that one mind, the mind of God, I think there's something to be said about letting God show up in our living. Do you let God show up in the way you live your life? That's a way we can be life's delight in life. There's an Egyptian proverb that says, on the journey to truth, one must stay on the path of love and enlightenment. On the journey to truth, one must stay on the path of love and enlightenment. So in the midst of life, in the midst of our living, in the way that we manage our own personal sacred walk, in the way that we continue to be seekers of truth, how is it that we stay on that path of love and enlightenment? How is it that we can remember and remind each other to return again to that beautiful source of life? These are the things we look at again and again because this is where we are inspired and comforted. It's only natural that we all want to live our lives well. Everybody looks, whether you're religious or not religious, whether you've ever read the Bible or not, there's a passage that said there's a truth that will set us free, and every one of us is looking for that truth. We are seeking the truth that will set us free, and I believe that that's universal, because there are so many ways that life challenges us, and sometimes we feel the opposite of freedom. Sometimes we feel like life kind of closes in around us and limits us. Sometimes we're paralyzed with fear, and we understand that these are all things that are a part of the human condition. One of the quickest detriments to peace and love and enlightenment, one of the things that can grab us and pull us into that feeling of limitation, is when we feel that we have been mistreated. Did you ever notice that? If you feel like somebody didn't quite understand what you were trying to communicate, or you feel that somebody has violated your trust, or you just feel that you've been mistreated in some way. And all of us have been there. Those are natural feelings in this experience of life. But we lose our balance when we have decided that life looks unfair. Now, I think when I ponder these things, it reminds me that there are spiritual philosophies, especially the Eastern philosophies, where they are a lot more open-minded and not afraid to look at the idea of suffering and limitation and pain and all of those things. And they tie it in as a part of their spiritual understanding. So our takeaway often is, and I've seen books titled like this, that how do they say it? Pain is inevitable, suffering, however, is optional, right? And so we determine the level of suffering, because when we've had enough, then we do something to shift that energy so we don't stay stuck in that suffering groove. In the West, in our little space in the world, on the globe, you might say, we really have a belief that life shouldn't be so difficult. And we are quick to judge when things look like they go wrong. We are quick to have an opinion about it. And then we seem to lose our freedom, because we've backed ourselves into a corner with those beliefs. If you've ever traveled to a country that is considered a developing country, we used to call them third world countries, you experience quickly a very different lifestyle from what we are accustomed to in our little corner of the world. And it opens our eyes to things we sort of take for granted, like electricity and running water, a bed to sleep in. Some cultures prefer mats on the floor, but I like my cushy bed, quite frankly. And what I notice is that those luxuries, like indoor plumbing, are pretty nice to have. When I spent my year abroad and I was living in Indonesia, the hardest part of living in that environment of a developing country was observing the disparity, the difference in my lifestyle from the life that millions of people live and is ordinary for them. So trying to deal with that disparity was difficult. And I remember when I came home, the first thing I did, when I looked in my refrigerator, I said, for God's sake, why do we have so many condiments? It was as if the condiments, it felt like a sin, you know. I had shame over all the condiments we have. I got over it quickly. I love condiments. But I am reading this week. I found this book in my library. It's nice to have a library where you surprise yourself with books you don't remember buying. This is a book by the Dalai Lama, and I'm a fan. This book is called Beyond Religion. It's a wonderful little read. Ethics for a Whole World. And the Dalai Lama has a belief based on his observations of traveling the world and living in different environments. And he says that people in less developed countries, they may suffer more, but they are more robust than people that don't suffer that much. And that interested me, so I dived deep in this book, and I wanted to read you a passage that, that touched me. The Dalai Lama says that by accepting hardship, we begin to see that it is not entirely negative. See, that's an unusual thought. If your culture is Western or in it like this, it's hard to see. Hardships, he says, help us recognize our kinship with one another. And with this recognition, we are less overwhelmed by our own difficulties. We are more in tune with a larger reality. And then he goes on to say something quite interesting. These effects of suffering are recognized by all the world's major religious traditions. They are also something I have felt in my own life. Now imagine the Dalai Lama is speaking to us now. Here's something that he has experienced in his own life. Here he has felt. He says, "There is no doubt that my experience of exile has given me a deeper understanding of life than what I would have had if I were still living in Tibet as a privileged ruler of a country." And he talks about the ways that the exile changed him and strengthened him, and the way that people gathered together to deal with all the difficulties that went along with that. So when I contrast Buddhism to Christianity, I will tell you that the first thing I notice is that I think there's a sameness. There's a similarity in the way these strong spiritual traditions offer us keys to living. But the Buddhists who came hundreds of years before the Christ consciousness was born on the planet, the Buddhists brought us compassion. By the time we come to the Christian era and we have this Jewish rabbi, Yeshua, Jesus brings us a slightly different consciousness than compassion. He brings love. And he takes that same premise that Buddhism brings with compassion, and he asks us to turn it into love and to love one another. And he seems to be giving us instructions on how to do that. And he does that in ways of showing us examples of loving one another. You who be without sin, you throw the first stone. Right? Or the way he was rebellious he saw that a donkey had fallen in a ditch, and he goes to help the animal out of the ditch, but it's the Sabbath, and people are scolding him because he should not have done such a thing on the Sabbath. And he then brings this new message. But love says that we honor all life, that this could be a way that we reimagine the world. And so we teach in this philosophy, we teach that we could not have been ready for that kind of love had Buddha not first grounded humanity in the consciousness of compassion. And now we see that they go together. See that everything we're looking at it that's going on in the world right now, in the way that religions are losing popularity and people are becoming more spiritual in spite of that, we can see that there's something shifting and changing in the consciousness of all humanity. When the life doesn't look fair, it's really important that we remember to sort of hunker down and anchor ourselves in compassion and love, in these most basic, fundamental spiritual qualities. Because when we move into righteous indignation over things that look unfair to us, we're leaving love and compassion for a moment anyhow. Sometimes that's the motivation. But we're leaving love and compassion out of the equation. And it can never then be a unifying force until we set down that righteous indignation and the anger that might be the energetic that begins some change. But we can't continue on in life, with that being the source that fuels us. The source that fuels us is love and compassion and enlightenment, peace and beauty and joy. So we take the two of them. The Dalai Lama said that we have confused the principle of justice or fairness. We have confused that with compassion. And when we do that, from his perspective, we are dabbling in an ethic of victimhood, and we want to get out of victimhood as quickly as we can. That is, being a victim is not helpful for healing, especially when we're looking at healing in unity, in a direction of a world that works for everyone. When our desire for justice is born from compassion, and when we fuel that with love and respect for each other, for humanity, then we can move sort of free of judgments. Our opinions won't matter as much as the love, the flowing, and the movement of that kind of effusive love that Jesus spoke about, that Jesus brought to us, I believe. Then when we can do that, when we can align to those bigger principles, then we can make a difference. We're moving with peace in our hearts, and love and light shining, and God's love is more apparent. God's love, then, the heartbeat of life through us. Admittedly, this kind of passion requires strength of character. But strength of character comes from practicing. That means we won't do it right a lot. But the more we catch ourselves and make a choice to return to love, the more it becomes a lesson that we are embodying and a change that we are helping bring about on the planet. So if we examine, this one sort of makes me laugh, if we examine like the people, the historical figures that we call the great peacemakers in the world, if you take just, I'm only going to talk about Mother Teresa because this kind of makes me laugh. Mother Teresa was not warm and cuddly. She wasn't soft and lovable. Right? I went to a women's retreat once on the Central Coast, and two of the participants, two women there, had just come back from India and had worked with Mother Teresa, and we were all like, what was that like? I had aspired that maybe in my lifetime I would get that opportunity. And they said, well, it was kind of scary. She just drops a baby in your arm and says, you'll figure it out, and then leaves you. It's like every hand matters. So, and that really is the point. Some of us are better at that than other people. But you can see that if she had just walked around angry, she wouldn't have the capacity to encourage others to just rock a baby, feed a baby, take care of an infant that is vulnerable and needs you to survive. So I love that we can see it was her passion for humanity that fueled her in this work that she did. And it wasn't hatred, it wasn't contempt. And these are the big things that interfere with our humanity. We can get mad over a cause, to have hatred toward individuals that we have decided are fueling or growing whatever it is that we are against. So there's a real difference in being fueled by your passion for humanity and or being driven by anger and things that don't look fair or right. So no, it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because it involves surrender. We don't do that well here in the West, I mean. You know, this is a theme in Eastern spirituality that they more boldly work on, I think, than we do. But what are we surrendering? Why is it hard? Well, we're asked to surrender our fixation on the wrong. If you only fixate on the bad thing that happened, it will be much more difficult for you to feel the softness, for you to go to that place of love and be fueled in a positive way. So we serve life, and this is why it's so important to remember this. We serve life because it's holy. All of life is holy. It is not broken. There is a peace of forgiveness that is called forward here in this conversation, because we're talking about separating the act from the actor. We're talking about knowing that wrongs are done, and we are not ever condoning that it's okay for any wrong to be forced on any other human or living being. But there's also a way where we can separate our idea of the evilness of that and don't make the person, the individual, evil. And I think that's really tricky. This is how Dr. Holmes worded it. Holmes, in his fabulous little book, Words That Heal Today, said, necessity demands that we forgive if we are to be forgiven. When we forgive, holding no condemnation, judging no one, then we are reflecting God's will of love. In the late 1990s, I attended a conference in Orange County at the somewhere. And it was a Course in Miracles conference, and a lady was sharing this experience. They had received a phone call from a woman who was wondering if they had 250 copies of Gerald Jampolsky's book, Only Love is Real. And it was an odd request. So the lady put her on hold and then went and found Beverly Hutchinson McNeff, who is the sort of the coordinator of that central location there. The Miracle Distribution Center they have the best list they keep current their list of where you can find a little Course in Miracles group anywhere in the world. So the lady goes and she gets Beverly Hutchinson McNeff, and she goes, there's a lady on the phone and she wants 250 copies of Gerald Jampolsky's book. You know, what do I say? And she said, well, that's a curious question. And Beverly herself went to the phone and she talked to the woman a little bit, and she said, may I ask why you need this book, why you're looking for and she had to have it by Saturday. Why do you need 250 copies of this book before Saturday? And the woman said, well, you will recognize who I am. I'm the mother of the little girl that was murdered last week. And the funeral is this Saturday. And everybody is so upset. There is so much hatred toward that person that did this, that I want to do my part to begin healing, or none of us will ever heal. And she got her books and she distributed them. I don't know. That's some kind of fortitude. That's some kind of character of strength for sure. Another story I read this week is from what happened in Northern Ireland in 1972. There was a peaceful demonstration going on. There were marchers, and the British Army dropped paratroopers, and they just shot through the crowd, and 13 people were killed. And in that group, many more were injured. And in that group was a young boy, 10 years old. His name is Richard Moore. And he was injured, and he lost his sight for life from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But instead of growing up and becoming bitter, he devoted his life to helping vulnerable children around the world. And then he did that one thing that is so unimaginable to most of us. He found the person who shot him, that took away his vision, and he forgave him, and they became friends. These stories are remarkable, but they remind me, maybe I can't do that, but they remind me that in our human spirit, in our love and the sacredness, and in our ability to see the sacredness of all humanity, we can find that place for forgiveness. See, in our own ways, we all face challenges, and most of us will never know those horrible things. But we face challenges, and we carry around hurts, and we feel that we see injustice, and it tears us up inside. We all have personal betrayals of one sort or another. And then when we carry those things around and we don't forgive, we don't let them go, we are destroying our own peace of mind day by day. Keeping an old wound alive in our memory, it impacts our happiness. It adds to the level of stress that we carry around, and the world is stressful enough already. We don't need to be carrying old wounds with us. Those things will interfere with our most basic well-being. It will interfere with our sleep patterns, the way we digest our food, the way that we inhale and exhale, the breathing that your body so desperately needs. The Dalai Lama puts it this way. He said, "When you dwell on the harm that someone has done to you, you will have an inevitable tendency to become angry and resentful." There's another way for us to move forward. There are ways in which we can practice a different kind of forgiveness, where we quit making the other person wrong, and we then forgive the action. We don't condone the action. We forgive that. We let the person off the hook at that level of our heart where we can sleep at night instead of just keeping it alive with the anger and the negativity. So it doesn't mean we forget, but it means that we are going to try to have compassion for the one who seemed to lack the ability in that moment, whatever it was, to do things differently. If we cannot find compassion in our own hearts, we will never feel the world is just or fair. And justice without compassion is just vengeance. And we know how that ends. So, we want to do our part to educate our heart by training our minds. And we want to live in that midst of life where we can recognize the holiness that is all around us all the time. We want to practice seeing the light. And so that's the lesson I'm giving you to take with you today. The lesson, the practice, the spiritual practice I'm inviting you to do is to spot God. Spot God, and do that 3 times today before you close your eyes in slumber. Which means if you're going to take a nap, you better work quick. Just expect to see God. And remember that everything that lives is holy. And when you recognize, when you spot God, you are activating something inside of you. There is a divine quickening that immediately realigns you to the precious truth of this present moment. God is here. God desires to express through each of us. And so we let it be. Take a deep cleansing breath. Oh, sometimes the topic is more dicey than other times, and today we just allow ourselves to relax right now and to breathe and feel the beauty of being supported by life in this holy environment. We just feel the love of God, and we welcome the way that has a transformational effect on our physiology. For we know that there is a source of all of life, and that we live in the midst of life and that life is eternal, and that life is moving through us right now in this very moment. I just feel the love of God within me. And I know, I'm reminded again that it is that same gorgeous essence of love that is abiding within each and every one of us. That it is love that gives life to all things, that keeps order in this gorgeous universe. There is indeed a way that we are sourced and supplied by life itself. And yet we know also that we are created in the image and the likeness of Spirit itself. And what that means is that we are co-creators in our own life. And so as we embark this week on a brand new life, things that have never been offered to us before appear. And we welcome this guidance. We welcome this divine inspiration. We invite the Holy Spirit to cleanse our vision so that we might have a renewed perspective of all the things that are going on. And beyond that, we allow ourselves to imagine what it would feel like to just surrender all the things that have held us back, to let go and to let God, to let love be the force in our life, that when it commingles with compassion, that way we feel something for all of humanity. Then we are healed and we are a part of healing each other. And so I am so grateful for this truth, for this beautiful awakening, for I know that in this flow of life, this perfection of life is being revealed through us, expressing as us, and anything that may seem in slight discord, we are willing to face it so that the divine hands and heart of life, the perfection of God, can straighten the crooked ways, and we can rise and feel that wholeness, the vibrancy and the vitality in our bodies. And we restore ourselves to a sense of activity in this beautiful life that enhances all of our relationships. We practice forgiveness, accepting that people, all of us, ourselves included, that we are doing the best we can, and when we have more information, we rise and we do better. So I say thank you, God. How grateful I am to hear examples of people who have demonstrated the strength of character to love in spite of horrible things, that are willing to forgive, that are willing to make amends. We need these stories to strengthen us in our own character building. And so I know this is good. I know this is good for us as individuals. I know this strengthens us as a community. And I know the goodness that comes ripples out and extends into all corners of the world. It circles the globe. And we can rest satisfied that indeed we do our part to make a difference. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this clarity, this renewal, this revival. We release these words into the law, knowing indeed it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful.
All right. Thank you, Bradfords. And we are grateful. So now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is. If you'd like prayer after service, you can come right up to the front here and we can pray with you. So we're all welcome. And let's have our closing song.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. Now sing it. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. It feels so good to be alive.
Yes, it does feel good to be alive. So repeat after me on closing affirmation. In the now. I give life to light. And so it is.